Red Notice might be Netflix's biggest movie yet, starring 3 of the biggest stars in Hollywood, but the trailers didn't hook me. Well, let me tell you, this might be one of the biggest surprises of 2021. This was a lot of fun. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new movie review. Today we're going to be discussing Netflix's brand new original film, Red Notice. This is about in the world of international crime, an Interpol agent attempts to hunt down and capture the world's most wanted art thief. It's directed and written by Rawson Marshall Thurber, and it's of course stars Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot. Again, 3 of the biggest stars in Hollywood. Now, like I mentioned in my intro, I was not that excited for this movie. I didn't like the trailers, any clips they were showing. It just felt like a giant Saturday Night Live sketch to me, but just these 3 actors and a little bit of a bigger budget. Thankfully, though, and I can really much say this, thankfully, this movie is freaking awesome. It's not going to win any awards, but when it comes down to entertainment and pure entertainment, it is a lot of fun, and I had a giant smile on my face, a bunch of laughter, and I was just on the edge of my seat the entire way through. I had a lot of fun with this, and I'm ready to claim this is my biggest surprise of 2021 so far. And of course, if you guys are new here and you also love talking movies, you are really in the right place, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as comment down below your guys' overall thoughts on the film. Are you guys excited for Red Notice? Are you going to see it in theaters this weekend because it's out early there, or are you waiting till streaming services? Let me know down below. Oh, like with any movie review I do, let's start with the pros. And one of the big pros of this is, of course, the cast. When you have Dwayne Johnson, Gal Gadot, and Ryan Reynolds, what other type of movie do you think you're going to get? You are going to get one of the most charming, charismatic casts ever, and they all work with wonders. The dynamic that they all have with one another is very important, and it makes you smile and makes you laugh, and in general, you're just sitting there really much into them. Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds, we've obviously seen act off one another back in, of course, Hobbs and Shaw, with a little bit of a cameo that Ryan Reynolds had in there, and that was really entertaining, and it continues in here for almost 2 hours, and it actually works. It never got annoying for me, and I just sat there with all the new jokes. And in my opinion, none of the jokes ever ran too stale or too long. They were always just perfectly ripe in the center that it needed to be. And alongside adding Gal Gadot in here, who this might be one of my favorite performances of hers, because it's not the typical Gal Gadot performance that we've seen before. In a sense, she's pretty much the antagonist of this entire movie, and she does a really good job in the role of being this slick, sexy, and amazing con artist in the world of art thieving. And for me, she worked so well in here, but the sexiness and the sleekness doesn't stop there, because Ryan Reynolds is really good as the fast-talking murder mouth that we know him to be as, say, Deadpool or The Proposal or any other role he's done. You know the kind of role you're going to get with him. And when it comes down to different performances, I would say The Rock and Ryan Reynolds pretty much play the exact same role that they typically always do. Gal Gadot's the one that does a little bit of a different dynamic here, but I loved it and I ate that stuff up. As well, this is, again, one of the Netflix's biggest movies, not just budget-wise or what you can see on the screen, but in the sprawling adventure that they go on across global tracking. I mean, this movie spans a globe. I mean, they go everywhere. You name it, they probably went there. And while that might be a little bit too much, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, I have to give major shout outs to the chasing and the tracking shots. The way that Rawson Thurber was able to really dive into here and give us a different look and dynamic than we've seen from him before in previous films. I really like the way that he shot a lot of the chase scenes in here. All the car chases, anything of that nature, they feel very sweeping and epic, and I felt like they were pretty badass and were entertaining. Now, some of the hand-to-hand combat stuff I thought could have been done a little bit better and tighter, especially from the editing room, but besides that, I was still on the edge of my seat. And there's, again, this isn't just a straightforward action movie. There are some great shootouts. You get some prison break stuff, you get some heist elements. Again, going back, you get awesome car chases. This movie has everything that you would want in an action adventure movie. And while it might not all be perfect, I was pretty surprised that a lot of it was still very highly edited in a good way. I think that's the thing, is that Red Notice might be my biggest surprise of 2021, is because I thought this would just be another cliche movie with 3 of the biggest actors, and, you know, yeah, sure, I'll have some fun here and there, but I'll be rolling my eyes a lot, and surprisingly I didn't. I was laughing out loud a lot. Again, the jokes hit, the characters work, the story is fun, the twists and turns that might happen throughout the story are some of the most fun things that I've seen in an action adventure in quite a while. That's the big poignant piece to this all, and the really cherry on top of the entire movie is how entertaining this movie was and how much I actually laughed. I laughed out loud quite a few times. I think if you're fans of Dwayne Johnson or Ryan Reynolds or even Gal Gadot, there is something in this movie for you, and I think this might be a big surprise for you as well. And of course, now let's dive into my mixed category, and one of the things that really did hold this film back just in a bit that I could see it maybe not working for some is maybe some of the humor won't work for you. Now, while I was laughing at a lot of it, there was maybe one or two jokes that felt a little bit too cringy, or even moments that did feel that same way. And like I mentioned, from the trailers, it looked like just a big budget SNL movie, and I was not excited for that. And thankfully, I don't think it ended up being that way, but there are select moments that do feel like an SNL film that I just was not in for. Plus, if you are over The Rock and Ryan Reynolds doing their typical shtick, there is nothing different here. You have seen it all the time before, and it's the same thing. You're either not over it and you're still having fun with it, or you want them to do something different. I'm in the camp where I love it, but I do wish they would do something different, but this movie doesn't change anything in that nature. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier, while this is the biggest Netflix film yet, it globetrots, it goes all around the world, I do feel like it maybe have been a little bit too big on scale. They seriously, I mean, when I mentioned they go everywhere, while it was cool to see that, I do think it got a little bit too distracting when it came down to this story, which again, I get the adventureness of it all, but I feel like it could have been a little bit tightened down when it came down to the locations. To round out the cons though, and one of the cons is some of the cross promotion in here is a little bit like eye rolling. I'm like, really? We see Aviation Jin? Ryan Reynolds Jin? Okay. Of course we do. Last thing I want to mention is just something that I've noticed in a lot of different action adventure movies nowadays is that the production design just feels very Hollywood-ish and doesn't feel like they're actually in these locations. Maybe that's why I have such a weird issue with the globetrotting, is because it feels like we are on a sound set or a sound stage that was designed to look like this, or it just looks like a bunch of CGI. And, you know, the CGI is not bad, but you can clearly tell what is real and what isn't, and some of that was a little bit distracting for me and pulled me out of my experience. As well, some of the storytelling kind of falls into the more stylish over substance, and I would have liked more diving into the story, because I do think there is vibes of Indiana Jones here, Ocean's 11. I find all of that elements very interesting, fascinating, and I wanted them to continue more in that realm, because I thought the dialogue and the script was actually pretty witty. But when it comes down to some of the other moments that it kind of flies into, it got a little bit overwhelming. Notice might not be the next Indiana Jones or Ocean's 11 or anything of that nature, but it is the starting of a new potential franchise for Netflix, and one that I wasn't that excited for. I'm like, of course, they get 3 of the biggest stars in here. How does this turn out to be? But I sat there actually in love with my enjoyment of this movie. It's not perfect by any means, but it is a giant surprise for 2021 for me. It's entertaining. It's laugh out loud funny, and it has some great action set pieces, especially any of the car chases or any just sequences that involve that with these cool tracking shots. The performances are exactly what you'll expect to get, but they're still very entertaining. The chemistry with one another works, and Gal Gadot does something different here that I really ate up. I was surprised with Red Notice. I didn't want my time to end with this movie because I was having that much fun with it. I think a lot of you guys are going to be feeling the exact same way. So with all that said, I'm going to give Red Notice a B+. Thank you once again, guys, for watching this. You guys are seriously all the best. I had a blast talking Red Notice with all of you guys, and I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're interested in seeing movies early, head on over to Sandwich on Films, and of course, it's a big thing to you and a big thing to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I would not be able to do this. If for any reason you're in the Arizona area and want to see some cool movies early, head on over to the Scottsdale International Film Festival's website and get your tickets now. But of course, until next time, stay classy.